Welcome to the Success Ascent. My name is Pat Mancuso, and I'm the creator and host of our show. Today on our show, we welcome Mr. Ken Walls, who's an entrepreneur, business owner, and author of multiple books. What I'm really excited about is Ken is going to share how he has used live presentations to build a multi-million-dollar business. Ken has done over 2,500 live presentations, and he's got some amazing things to share with us. So on to the ascent. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Success Ascent. My name is Pat Mancuso, and I am excited that you're with us today, and I am extremely excited about our guest today. I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman by the name of Ken Walls. Now, I'm going to let Ken do the bulk of the introduction, yet I do want to share a couple of things with you before I bring him in here. First, he's an entrepreneur, business owner. He's also an author of, I think, 4 books, contributors in the most recent book called Go Live, with Jeffrey Gitomer. And so I'm excited to hear about that. He also is someone who by full disclosure, I'm a part of a coaching program that he has that to me is something that's really important today in our world. And that is the world of online technology and how we communicate with people from a business perspective. So I know Ken's going to share some amazing things with us today. And he comes to us from just north of Columbus, Ohio. So welcome, Ken, to the show.
Pat, thanks for having me. I'm grateful to be here. I got to tell you, when I first saw your name back, whatever, it's been a month ago, maybe, or whatever, I thought, man, Pat Mancuso, he sounds like he's either a movie star or I don't know, that name. Just, I love your name, dude.
Well, you know what's cool, Ken, is, you and I are probably from some of the same similar age groups. So there was a show that was FBI Mancuso. You probably remember that.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
I always get confused with the actor. He's about 50 years older than I am. And then there was a famous baseball player by the name of Gus Mancuso who played catcher back in the day. So it's probably one of those confusion type of things.
Something in the subconscious mind.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right.
Yeah.
So who is Ken Walls? Tell us about Ken Walls.
Well, I'm just a guy that's out here, changing the world, man. One person at a time. That's the goal and changing it for the better. I want to be clear about that, because I think there's a lot of people trying to change the world not for the better.
Yeah,
I grew up in Northwest Ohio, and in a very, very, very tumultuous environment, and found myself getting in a lot of trouble as a kid, and did dumb things like my senior year when they said you didn't get a biology credit. I argued with the guidance counselor, and I said, well, yeah, that class really sucked. I hated it. And I don't care. I'm never dissecting a frog again in my life. So let's just give me the diploma. And he's like, no, it's required. You got to come back next year. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. I'm out of here. And I walked out after having taken all these college prep courses.
Wow.
I walked out 3 months before graduation. I never went back.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, that really made me feel insecure for a long time.
Yeah.
Until I hired a bunch of college graduates that worked for me.
Right.
And I realized that they weren't really learning a whole lot. That's terrible. I'm not taking away from anybody that has a college degree. But I've hired a lot of people that like, I'm like, how did you, like, I had an attorney that was my assistant. Like, I'm like, how in the world did you get a Juris Doctorate? Like, but anyway, so, but the thing is I learned at the age of about 20 years old. I had worked at the Honda factory building cars for a couple of years, and got out of that because, like, an assembly line just isn't me.
Right.
And so I got into sales, and I realized really, really quickly after getting into sales, number one, you write your own paycheck. Number two, you better know how to communicate effectively with other human beings if you're going to make it.
Right.
And so I realized I had no clue what I was doing. So I started reading everything I could get my hands on by Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy and Tony Robbins. And I'm listening to all of this, and I just got obsessed with reading and learning about success and learning about how the human mind works and and that's who I am today. I'm obsessed with helping other people explode in life. That's what it's about for me.
I love it. I love it. So before we get into like who Ken is today, like in the realm of live video and live streaming,
Yeah.
when I was doing a little bit of research, you had a technology company or a technology channel, because I saw you interviewed Grant Cardone a while back, and what a fire plug he is. But
Yeah.
but what did you do before you were kind of in the space you are today?
Well, so Grant's a good buddy of mine, actually, I'll tell you, I still do it. We do website development and marketing, and
Okay.
I built my first website in 1994,
Wow.
and I mean I've had a computer. I got, like, around 11 years old, I got this Commodore 64C. It was a basic language programming computer, and excuse me, you would spend 2 days writing code to get a little ball just to blip around on the screen. I taught myself that at 11 years old. And I always loved computers and technology, and getting creative with it. And so I started way back then. And in 94, I got into, I built a website for a company that I owned because I talked to somebody about building a website for me, and it was literally like $100,000 or
Yeah.
something crazy. And I was like, what? And so I'm like, I'll figure this out on my own. And I did. And then, back in 2002, what should I keep going?
Yeah, no, this is great. Yeah,
So,
this is because we always like on the show, we like to see the journey, right? Because everybody
yeah,
looks at where people are today and their success, and yet they
yeah.
don't understand that it took something to get there, right?
Oh, geez. Yeah, it took something. It took a lot of something. So, look, one of the quotes I wrote in my book is pain, in my first book, pain is the predecessor of all wisdom. And typically it's not going to be somebody else. Like, I may watch you go over and touch a hot burner on a stove, and you go, oh, that is really hot, gosh. And I even look at the evidence that you have a burn mark on you, and yeah, that looked like it was painful, but I'm probably not going to know what hot really means until I go touch it myself.
Right.
Wow, Pat, you were right, that is hot. Well, I may have left my finger on there longer than you. It hurts. But so we typically don't really absorb information until we go through the pain of not having that information ourselves.
Right.
And so in my 20s, I did really, really well. I fell into a niche that was the little satellite dishes and home security systems. And I had a humongous team of door-to-door salespeople that I trained. Then I started training door-to-door salespeople in the home security industry on a national scale, and was going to Opryland Hotel and doing events there and training dealers and their salespeople, and really just got into the multi-millions of dollars. And at that age, I mean, from the tumultuous upbringing where there were a lot of drugs and alcohol in my house as a kid, and then my chip on my shoulder, and my ego was just, the more money I made, the bigger my ego got. I mean, it was, I thought I was Elvis, I swear, at one point. And so I mean, I was crazy, man. But I ended up at 34 years old, after many bouts of a lot of problems, I finally came to the realization that I was an alcoholic. And so I got into recovery, and by the grace of God and a lot of hard work, I haven't had a drink or a minor mood altering drug in over 18 years.
Oh, good for
So
you.
so yeah, it's not just good for me, it's good for society.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
you know, the world's a better place with me sober. But I didn't, I was in denial for so long that I didn't realize. I really did. I mean, in the back of my mind, I probably knew, yeah, you got a problem, dude. But I was so enthralled in just, I got to get another drink. Like it didn't even like it didn't matter. I mean, after being a millionaire in my 20s, I was homeless in my early 30s, and I'd been homeless multiple times in my adult life, and not homeless walking the streets pushing a grocery
Right.
shopping cart, homeless as in no address that was
Couch
mine,
surfing type of deal.
that and sleeping in my car at times because there wasn't a couch to surf, or I mean, so I spent 2 weeks living in Seattle in my car, and so I've done a lot, and I've been through a lot of probably most of it self-induced pain,
Right.
and it's always caused me to grow and learn, and so far I'm still alive, and as long as I'm alive, I feel like I can still make a positive impact on the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're in the technology world, you're building websites, you're doing that.
Yep.
What brought you, I mean, the social media, the online, the internet, that obviously, it's funny when you were talking about building websites for $100,000. I remember when I first got into real estate at the time, and we were just moving from a book to computer, and people were fighting that. And then I remember I spent 30 grand on a website back in the, when I got into real estate.
Yeah.
When you said 100, I went, holy, I thought 30 was a lot.
Yeah.
So let's dial forward and go, okay, so now you stabilize your life, you stabilize what you need to, you've taken that, you've learned and apply it. So now let's move forward and go, so what brought to Ken to where he is today? Like, you've got this great following, your mindset around being live, and so talk about that. Like, how did that come about?
So 6 years ago, I had hired a guy as a favor to somebody else that was um, just fresh out of the Marine Corps, and I interviewed this kid, and I said, I mean, the only thing I could hire you for is sales. He's like, that's fine, I'll do that. And I'm like, but what? I mean, what experience do you have? He goes, well, I was a sniper in the Marines. And I'm like, well, I don't need anybody killed right now. So, we're going to have to look at sales, and you may want to just not,
Yeah.
you need to learn how to sell. And so I'm like, okay, I don't have time to teach this kid. I'm busy running my business. I have other employees. I got too many things hopping. And I'm like, what do I do? So I get on YouTube. I look for sales training videos to just say, here, you're green, dude, go watch these and get back with me in a couple of days, and let's see, so I come across Grant Cardone's videos, and I was like, I grew up on Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy. I mean, you can listen to Brian Tracy just to fall asleep at night sometimes. His voice is so he's a great, I love Brian. I'm connected with Brian on LinkedIn, but his voice is so soothing,
Yeah.
and so but so I found Grant, and I'm like, who is this maniac? And I'm so I end up signing up for Grant Cardone Sales Training University, and I spent $36,000 on that, and it was for my salesperson, and it was so good, I thought, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to get my other salespeople to take it, and so I started doing. It's a long story. I won't go into how I got on Grant's radar, but I got on Grant's radar, and I flew my assistant to Florida and hand delivered 2 bottles of wine to Grant and his wife. And she was a real cute young girl. And he called me, and he's like, if there's anything I can never do for you, let me know. And I said, there is. I want you as a client. And he's like, what do you do? And I go, website development, SEO. I'm one of the top SEO guys in the world and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, holy crap, I need an SEO guy. I go, I know you do. Because, but anyway, so I did Grant's SEO on his website and did some blog article stuff for him for a couple of years. And we just became good friends. And, but back then, 6 years ago, I saw Grant going live on Periscope, and I was on there once, and he's like, man, this is a great platform. You got to learn how to do this. If you're going to be in business, you got to learn how to do this. And I'm like, well, I'm in business. I build websites, and I was dominating the Columbus market in websites and had clients all over the world and still do. But like, I was like, this is interesting, So I didn't even have an iPhone. I was using somebody else's that worked for me. I'm like, all right. And that was the only thing you could use Periscope on. It wasn't available to Android users at the time. So I go to the Verizon store and get an iPhone just so I could live stream on Periscope. That was it. The only reason. Now I would never switch from an iPhone ever. But anyway, so I started going live. And Pat, I don't know if I can say this on your podcast. I'm not going to swear, but I was nervous as a hooker in church the first time I did it. I mean,
we may edit that out. I don't know. I love it.
No, so I remember, and remember, I had stood on stages in front of thousands of people. Why am I afraid to hit the live button on my phone, for the love of Pete? And so I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And so I did it, and I was terrified, and I was horrible. I mean, I was absolutely horrible. But then later that day, after I stopped sweating, and I thought, well, I lived through that. Maybe I'll do it again. Grant keeps doing it, I can do it. So I kept doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And now I've done, I've got multiple shows. Glenn Morshower, who's been an actor for 45 years, is all over he's been in over 250 movies and TV shows. Him and I do a show. We have another show on Sunday nights. I have my daily podcast show that I do. And I've interviewed over 300, and I just uploaded episode 320 today from this morning. And so, wow. I've done well over 2,500 live streams now. And yeah, so
let's take the person who's probably listening to this, who's an entrepreneur, solopreneur, business owner, and they don't have these huge, massive marketing budgets, right? They're maybe starting it on a bootstrapping it. So what advice would you give somebody today who's just starting out? And let's say maybe they were in real estate, because a lot of our listeners tend to be in real estate, but it could be insurance. Where would you lead them to start, other than pushing the live button?
Yeah. For a real estate agent that's brand new, other than pushing the live button.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to learn social media. Yeah. If you don't learn how to use social media, and I don't mean post on your business page once every 3 days. I'm talking about posting on your business page, your personal page, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on everything available multiple times a day, every day. If you're brand new, you don't have much going on anyway, so you might as well be posting like a maniac. And if you and I know a lot of realtors, and let's just be real, man. I mean, you got a lot of free time. I know that there's now a lot of people just hung up. Probably they're not going to listen to the rest of this. Yeah. But there's a lot of realtors that have a lot of free time.
Right.
And so why wouldn't you go out to the properties that you have that are already listings, or maybe properties that you want as listed? I don't know.
Somebody else's listing, right?
Somebody else's listing, and do a live stream video from there, or do do a video of it, and learn how to use some of the tools that are available for us for pennies on a day, you know, that you can use right from your iPhone to edit videos and do cool template things and and put these posts out there, and use Instagram stories and LinkedIn stories, and Twitter has their version of stories now, and Facebook stories and posts, and use all of the tools that are available. Now, people say, well, that's just overwhelming, I can't do that. And I'm like, you can. You've got to stop thinking it's overwhelming. It's not. It's not overwhelming once you start doing it. It's the thoughts that are overwhelming. It's not the actual doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I had a guest on our show not too long ago, and he shared something with me. There's a site called Noam, where it's actually 450 social platforms. And the premise was, you know, you were talking about all these places to post, and we think about just the main sources, right? And yet there's so many other places. And yet this source, you could go there and they did all this work for like $200 and you'd be on all these places. And it was like, the technology is just amazing what we can do out there. So
I'm more about, you know, I've seen obviously I've used in the past the platforms that will post it out everywhere for you, the same post. I'm all about, you know, being unique, every post being unique and individual. And, you know, you can have a team of people helping you with these things.
Right.
But, you know, it's like people say, well, you know, I'm too busy. I'm like, Grant Cardone has $2.1 billion worth of real estate, runs 8 or 9 different companies, and he's a maniac about posting on TikTok, Instagram stories, and everything else. Plus, he has a team doing some stuff for him also.
Sure.
But he's the one holding the phone 50, 60, 70% of his posts.
Right.
So
do you think, Ken, people struggle with the fact that they want it to be perfect and that's why they don't do it? Like I got to script out the session before I started, and you know, that'll take me forever. Is that a big, do you see that as a big deal?
I think it's a huge deal. I think it's a big deal, not just for social media, but for life in general. I think people are, you know, you're trying to get it absolutely perfect before you take action. And the bottom line is, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to do something like I'm doing right now. I'm recording Pat Mancuso on here right now on your podcast, and I'm putting that up on Instagram, and I'll tag you on Instagram, and it'll be on Instagram stories. So like, there's always an opportunity. I literally, as you and I are talking, I don't know if this is something people will watch or they just listen to.
They'll do both.
Okay. So they'll see that I just open up my phone and just did a story. I just did a story while we're talking in the middle of my sentence.
Yeah.
So it's not difficult.
Right.
It's just doing it.
Right.
It's just do it. Are you on Instagram, by the way?
You know, we're getting there. We're
You're not there yet?
We're slow to that party. I mean, we're there. We're just slow to the party.
Oh, you're there. Okay. Because I want to tag you. I want to tag you on there.
Tag me.
I'm doing it, man.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's funny. I look back and maybe it's a generational thing, or maybe it's just the acceptance of the inevitable. When I started, you know, I go back to when I started real estate, I was at the forefront. I come into real estate in 1990 as a brand new agent. I started real estate in 87. I started actively selling in 90. And when I came in, I looked at all these people that have been in the real estate forever. And, you know, they were fighting getting rid of their book that had all the pictures of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I looked at that and I laughed all the time. And now I think people laugh at me because, well, you're not on Instagram yet. You're not on, you know, I'm on them. I'm just not participating in them. But the reality of it is now is you have to, right? Every business has to be on those platforms because that's where people are. Unfortunately, for better or worse, that's where people are.
If you're, I mean, here's the thing. I know, again, I know a lot of realtors. The most successful realtors I know are blowing up social media,
right?
Blowing it up. I have one of my best friends in the world is a guy named Frank Crenity, and Frank is the #1 car salesman in the world. Frank sells 140 plus cars per month on average
Oh my
by
gosh.
himself.
I got to get him on my show.
I'll make it happen. He'll be
love
on
it.
But he's cocky, and for a good reason. He's listen, this is a guy that's just a regular dude that makes over $1 million a year selling cars. Do you know what the average car salesperson sells in a month? How many cars?
Like 2 or 3.
It's 9. The national average is 9.
Okay, so it's more than I thought.
9. If you're hitting 15, 16, 17, 20 cars in a month, you're a rock star. You hit 30, they're going to start writing papers about you.
Yeah.
Frank's doing 140. There is another guy named Ali Rita in Detroit that's right next to the GM factory that gets a lot of business. That he holds the world record. Frank's just up there, but Ali has a team of like 5 people working for him. Frank's doing this by himself. So anyway,
wow.
When you look at this stuff and you go, and you know why Frank blows up? This is why Frank sells over 140 cars a month. He's the master of social media in his area in West Philadelphia.
Wow.
And he's just killing it. People call him the mayor of Delaware County, PA. and he's just, because he's everywhere on social media all the time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I love that, right? And about the cool part about it is we can learn so much, right? It's all there, right? I mean, now I'm like, okay, I'm going to go follow him. I'm going to watch his stuff just because, somebody who's selling that type of cars per month, right? Yeah. That's just amazing. So Ken, in your journey as an entrepreneur, what challenges have you experienced? Like, what's the biggest challenge that you've experienced being an entrepreneur?
Well, I have squirrel syndrome.
Where?
Right. Like, hey, this is a great idea. Well, let's do it. Squirrel.
Yeah.
And so I've, early on and for years, I've had people offer me millions of dollars a year. Grant Cardone's offered me a job multiple times. He's like, you need to come work with me, bro. I'm like, no, thanks, bro. I'm good. But like, and I love Grant, Jeffrey Gitomer, who's a legend, he'd love for me to come work with him. I'm positive of it. But, here's the thing, man. It's easy as an entrepreneur to get distracted because most of us are super high level thinkers where I'm not details do nothing but upset me. I can't, I getting into the weeds and hey, let's read this spreadsheet.
Right.
I'd rather have my toenails pulled out than read a spreadsheet and create a spreadsheet. No, thank you. So I'm not in, but like, dude, let's sit down and talk about how we're going to build this thing to change the world. And I am in, I'm that. And that's most entrepreneurs are going to be, global high level thinkers. Learning how to, one of the challenges is the squirrel thing. I get distracted easily. I've had people offer me big money, go work for them. There's been a couple of sabbaticals I've taken to try that. Didn't work out. And I knew it wouldn't work out. I don't know why I had to try it, but, and then there's been, times where, I didn't know what to do. And I had to turn and ask somebody for help. Right. And I think entrepreneurs have a very difficult time asking for help.
They do. Yeah. And that's why they struggle in a lot of cases.
Oh, it's exactly why.
Right.
And so, I'm a coach as well, which that.
Sure.
And I find that people, it's funny because some of my coaching clients have been like, well, I've been watching you for the last couple of years. And I'm like, years? It took you years to make a decision to reach out to me? Are you serious? Well, I'm almost bankrupt now. And I thought I'd spend my last $5,000 with you. I'm like, No,
Yeah.
no, you got it wrong. Reach out when you first have the premonition, when you first have that gut feeling like I need to contact this dude or this gal. Go do it now, you know. But anyway, so asking for help's been hard for me, man. I have a really tough time asking for help.
Yeah.
I'm way better at it now. But anyway, so
Yeah, that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that.
yeah.
So Ken, what's the best advice you've ever been given that you followed?
Brian Tracy in the Psychology of Success. It's an audio course program. I still have all the CDs, and you know, some millennials won't know what that means.
No. But hey, they didn't know what Commodore 64 was when you mentioned that.
Yeah. Right. You knew what it was?
Oh, I did.
Yeah, all right. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So you know, I in the Psychology of Success, Brian Tracy said something, and I got this at 20 years old, and I was lucky to get this at 20 years old. Always do more than what you're paid for. Always do more than what you're paid for. And you know, and I've hired so many people, I know you have too, that like, okay, you're the receptionist or you're the whatever, and this is your job description, and here's your office or your desk and your computer, and go get them, tiger. And then you're walking along and you know they just came out of the bathroom, and you walk in and there's toilet paper all over the bathroom or it's a mess, and you go, did you just came out of here and you didn't clean this up? Or did you actually make this mess? And you know, then you go to the employee and go, hey, I saw you just come out of the bathroom and you left that I'm not paid to clean.
Right.
Oh, okay. So I remember Brian Tracy saying that, and it's part of who I am. It's, you know, my program is an online thing, right? And it's $997 one time, and you get it for life.
Right.
I just recently, about 2 months ago, said, you know what? I'm going to start doing group coaching sessions on Thursday nights, just to help people, give them that extra push for an hour and a half. And I've had some rock star guests come on and speak, very famous people. And, you know, so I'm doing that. I'm doing more than what I'm paid for. That's all Brian Tracy's principle.
Great advice.
Yeah.
So let's flip that upside down. What's the absolute worst advice that you were ever given, and hopefully you didn't follow it?
I probably did. You know, I really don't, you know,
It's always a question that people struggle with, right? Because if it was bad advice and you did follow it, you've probably pushed it out of your mind so much you don't ever want to remember it again.
Well, you know, I mean, I've been given a lot of bad advice that I followed, you know, but here's my take on that. I mean, you know, I was given the advice to move my family to Vegas 4 years ago and shut down my office and lay off all my employees and work with this guy that was and I was, you know, there as a contractor. And it ended up being one of the worst decisions I ever made. However, it also turned out to be one of the best things I ever did, because it pushed me in directions that I hadn't considered in the past. Yeah. And I learned some things from it. So, you know, that was a pretty bad piece of advice. Get married. I'm kidding. I should have never gotten married as a raging alcoholic. I will say that, but you know, you live and you learn. So I've been married. Jill and I've been married now for 11 years or so. For you. It's awesome. Yeah. So
those are always learning opportunities. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, so as we kind of close here, I'm going to ask you in a second to share, you know, one parting piece of advice, if you may. And so one of the things you're doing right now, and I want to give you an opportunity to kind of direct people towards this, is you've got a program, basically a coaching program, to help people who want to start utilizing going live to help in their business. And so how would they, or where would they go to get some more information on that?
Well, you can go to www.golive, growliveacademy.com. You may actually have to put the www in there. I've got to go look at that, but it's growliveacademy.com is where that is. You can go to kenwalls.com and there's actually a link on there. And I have a free ebook on my website you can download. That's actually part of the Go Live book by Jeffrey Gitomer. My ebook is part of Jeffrey Gitomer's new book.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
What a great project that must have been.
When you have a 4 times New York Times bestselling author call you and say, hey, I'd like you to write one of the opening chapters of my new book, it's an unbelievable, life-altering moment.
Pretty cool. Well, yeah. Ken, you have been amazing today. And I know that when I go back and I listen to these and get them ready to post in the podcast, there'll be lots of notes that I'll take. And so what would be the final thought that you would share with entrepreneurs and business owners to help them grow and move into a different level of success?
Well, it's cliche, but it's, and that is, don't ever give up. Keep going. Like I've been on the verge of bankruptcy so many times and couldn't feed my family, had to borrow money. I always thought if it gets so bad I can't feed my kids, then I'm going to go get a real job. And then I'm like, no, I know the big deal's coming. All I got to do is borrow some ramen noodles from my mother-in-law and we'll be okay.
Funny.
I'm exaggerating a little.
No, well, no, it's true though, right?
It is true, man. Like if you never give up, I'm friends with Sharon Lecter, who wrote 3 Feet from Gold with Napoleon Hill Foundation. And it's like, you might be right there on the edge. Don't give up. Invest in yourself as much as you possibly can. And don't ever stop learning. No matter what, don't ever stop learning.
Yeah.
So,
and I think in our world of COVID today, it's given us such a great opportunity to do that. And the skills that are going to be necessary into the future was now the opportunities to learn them. So I think great final thought there. Well, Ken, oh my gosh, thank you so much for taking the time. I truly appreciate it. I think by far of my, I think this is 20 or 21 episodes. This by far has been the most hilarious one relative to just the energy and the what you brought to the table. So I love that. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for supporting the Success Ascent. As you know, go to your favorite podcast source or go to thesuccessascent.com and you can sign up there. As I end every show, be healthy, be safe, and have an awesome day, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
If you've not yet subscribed, please go to your favorite podcast source and subscribe to the Success Ascent, or simply go to www.thesuccessascent, and that's ASCENT.com, thesuccessascent.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. We look forward to catching you on the next Ascent.